Welcome to BIO-CHEM Physics Academy. Today we are treating chain rule. Chain rule is used to differentiate a function made up of one function inside another function. I come again. Chain rule is used to differentiate a function made up of one function inside another function. Let's say y is equal to x raised to power 2. Using general rule, we can use the general rule to solve this question. Saying our x, our dy, in differentiating y with respect to s, we can say our dy over dx is what? We have to bring down the power, multiply, then what? Subtract 1 or reduce the power by 1. So this final answer will be what? 2x, isn't it? But when it comes to what? What if we are giving y is equal to what? Is equal to 4x plus 3 raised to power 2. In this case, we can't use the general rule. Neither we cannot use the general rule, and also we can also not use the what? First principle, because this is what is complex. In compare is complex to differentiate compare to what? To the first one. Here we have to apply chain rule. So in this case, we can say, given that our chain rule is what? Is changed in x, changed in y over changed in x, rather, which is equal to change in y, dy over what? Over du times du over what? Over dx. So using this particular rule to solve this particular question, we can say let u be 4x plus 3. In this case, we have to differentiate the inner, then differentiate the outside, and then multiply their derivative. We have to differentiate the inner part, differentiate the outside part, and then multiply by what? By derivative. What do I mean is that let u be 4x plus 3. Then our du, if we are to what? Differentiate u in respect to x with respect to s, it becomes what? Du over what? Du over dx, which is equal to what? If we are to differentiate this term, it becomes what? 4. Becomes 4 times 1 s raised to what? 1 minus 1 plus what? If we are to differentiate constant, is what? Is 0. Then we can say our du over dx is equal to what? 4s. I'm sorry. 1 minus 1 is 0. 4 times 1 is 4, and s raised to power 0 is what? Is 1. So which is what? 4. Then let y be equal to what? So our y, this is the outside. I said we have to what? Differentiate the inner part, then differentiate the outside, and then what? Multiply by their derivative. Then in this case, y will be equal to what? Let y be what? Be equal to what? U. this could be the other side, u raised power 2. So if I to what differentiate y with respect to u, we can say dy over du is equal to what 2 times what times 2 raised power 2 minus 1. So which is equal to 2u. 2 minus 1 is 1. So these are what our dy over du. So now by applying our this chain rule, we can say dy over du is equal to dy dy over ds is equal to what dy over du times du over dx. So we can say our dy over dx is equal to what? What's our dy over du here is what? 2u. Then we can say times our du over dx is what? Our du over ds is what? Is 4. Then we can say our dy over ds is what? 2u times 4 is what? Is 8. 2 times 4 is what? Is 8u. But our u is equal to what? But our u is equal to 4s plus 3. So we can say if our u is 4s plus 3, then we can say our what? Our u, our x, our dy over dx is equal to what? 8 bracket 4x plus what? Plus 3. Then we can now say our what? Our dy over dx is equal to 8 times 4 is what? That's 32 x plus what? 8 times 3 is what? That's 24. So our final answer here should be what? 32x plus what? 24. 8 times 2 is what? Is 8 times 4x is what? Is 32x. And what? 8 times 3 is what? Is 24. 24. So now let's take another question. This is just the idea about this chain rule. The first thing is just like you have to what? You have to differentiate the internal part, the inner, then differentiate the outer part, and then multiply by what? By the derivative. So this lets you, which is the inner. We have to differentiate the inner. This is different, and this is the derivative of the what? Of u. Then differentiate the outer part, which is the u square. Are we on the same page? Then multiply by the what? By the derivative. That's just the idea. So let's take another question. Let's say y is equal to cube root of ax plus b. Okay, let's see this way. Y is equal to what? Cube root of what? Ax plus what? Plus b. Let me say raised power 2. In this case, you have to express this in form of what? In form of this. I come again. When the question is given this case, this way, you have to what? Express this in form of what? In form of this. So in this case, we can say y. In this case, we have to apply law of what? Law of indices. We have to what? Apply the what? The law of what? Of indices. Saying y is equal to what? The law of indices says square root of a is equal to what? A raised by what? 1 over 2. And the what? Cube root of a is equal to what? A raised by what? 1 over 3. So now we can say our y is equal to, we can say our y is equal to what? Is equal to bracket ax plus b bracket what? Bracket, we have 2 bracket what? Bracket 1 raised by what? Power 3. I come again. Now to express this y, this question, in order to differentiate these particular questions, we have to what? We have to express it in form of what? This. And then to get it differentiated, we have to what? We have to apply the law of indices, which is square root of a is what? Is equal to what? A raised by 1/2, and then whereas square root of cube root is equal to what? A raised by what? 1 over 3. So we can say y is equal to what? This is what? This is our a. Let's assume these are our coefficients of a, and these are what? Our what? 1 over 3 bracket what? It has 2 here, which is what? Which is this. Then we can say y is equal to what? Bracket ax plus what? Since this is multiplication, then we can say 2 times 1 is what? 2, which is equal to what? 2 over what? Over 3. So now, in this case, let's now what? Differentiate. Given that y is equal to what? Bracket ax plus b over what? 2 over what? 3. So in this case, you can say what? Let our u is equal to what? A s plus what? Plus b. So now, so as plus b, then our what? Our, in differentiating u with respect to s, we can say du over what? Over dx is what? Is equal to what? Is equal to, here as is still the same thing as what? As a. I'm just using 8s as an instance. So we can say as is also the same thing as 8. And if we are to differentiate this, is what? Is equal to what? 8. In that case, we have to what? We have this, it has to be 1 times 8 is what? Is 8. And 1 minus 1 is what? 0. S by 0 is what? Is 8. So now we can say ax is equal to what? 1 times a is what? Is a. So 1 minus 1 by what? 1 minus 1 is what? Is 0. So now s raised by 0 is what? 0. S raised by 0 is 0. S raised by 0 is what? Is 1. So a times 1 is what? A. So now this b is what? Is constant. So now, and I said that what? I said that derivative of any constant is what? Is 0. So this b is off. So now our du dx is what? Over dx is what? Is a. Then let's look for what? Our y. Let's say y. Let y be what? U raised by what? 2 over 3. Like I said earlier, I said you have to differentiate the upper part, then multiply by what? By their what? Their derivative. So now we can say this is what? We equal to what? Our d. If we are to differentiate y with respect to x, y with respect to u, we can say our du, our dy lower what? Over du is equal to what? We have to what? Multiply by the what? We have to bring down the what? The power. 2 over 3 times what? Times u, and what? We have to multiply the power, then we have to multiply the power, then what? And then subtract the power by minus, subtract the power by what? By 1. So now we can say our dy over what? Over du is equal to 2 over 3 times what? U raised power what? 2 raised 2 over 3 minus 1. 2 over 3 minus 1 over 1 will be equal to what? The sum of this and this is what? 3. 3 goes in 3, how many times? 1. 1. 1 times 2 is what? 2 minus what? 3 goes in 3. 3 goes in 1, how many times? 3. 1 goes in 3, how many times? 3. 3 times 1 is what? We have 3. So this fraction will be what? 2 minus 1 is what? Minus what? 2 minus 3 is what? Minus 1 over what? 3. So now here we can say u is equal u raised power. We can say our u is equal to what? Is raised power what? Minus 1 over what? Over 3. So we can say getting to these points, let's look a way to eliminate this minus. So we can eliminate this minus by using the law of indices too. So given that our dy over du is equal to what? Is equal to 2 over 3 times what? Times u this one minus 1 over 3. So now to get this minus eliminated, let's use the law of indices, which is what? X raised power minus n is still the same as what? 1 over what? X raised power what? N. So we can say our dy over what? Over du is equal to what? Is equal to what? 2 over what? Over 3 times what? U raised power what? Raised power 1. I want to say raised power what? 1. This become what? U over what? 1 over what? 1 over 3. This one will come down. So now this will dy over du. So this will finally becomes what? 2 times 1 becomes what? 2 over what? Over 3 times u raised power 1 over 3 becomes what? 3 u over 1 over raised power 1 over 3. So now getting to these points, let's apply our law of what? Our share rule. So our share rule says what? Dy over what? Over ds is equal to what? Is equal to what? Dy over du times du over what? Over dx. So we can now say our dy over what? Over ds is equal to dy over du is what? What's our dy over du? Our dy over du is what? Is 2 over what? 3u raised power 1 over 3 raised power 1 over 3 times du over dx is what? Is a. So now we can say our dy over ds is what? Is 2a over what? 3u raised power what? 1 over 3. Getting to this point, we can say getting to this point, we can say our dy over what? Over du is equal to what? Is equal to 2a over what? Over 3u raised power what? 1 over 3. But u, what's our u in the question? But what? But our u is what? Is ax, but u is what? Is ax plus what? Plus b. So now since our u is ax plus ab, then we can say our dy over what? Over du is equal to what? 2a all over 3 bracket as plus b raised by what? 1 all over what? Over 3. This is our final answer. Then you can what? You can now also decide to what? To convert it back to this particular to this it was given, the question was given in this way. So your answer might also be can be also in this way or end up in this. So if you are to decide to what? To convert it back in this form, we can now say by applying, we can also say here we have to use the law of what? Of indices. So now to use the law of indices, given that what? Our cube root, our what? Our cube root is equal to what? Our a raised by a raised by 1 over 3 is still the same thing as what? As cube root of what? Of a. So now applying that to this, we can say our dy lower what? Lower I'm really sorry. Our dy, not du, is dx. Is dx. Our dy lower dx is equal to dy lower dx is equal to, here you can say 2a all over, we have what? 3. This 3, we are following this step, bracket ax square root of what? It's not square root, it's cube root of what? Ax plus b. This is the final answer. I think I should teach you on how to use shortcuts. I want to give you the shortcut of solving the shortcut of solving chain rule. This using the shortcut, given that y is equal to ax plus b bracket 2 over 3. Then you can say, in this case, you have to what? First bring this down, bring the power down. 2 over 3 2 over 3. Then differentiate this, which is what? If I have to differentiate this, as will be what? This should be times, differentiate this is what? Is a, because this is like what? I said it like 8s. So if I have to differentiate this term, it becomes what? 8. So this is what? 1 times x, 1 times a is a. 1 minus 1 here is what? Is 0. And x raised to the power 0 is what? Is 1. So plus what? This is gone. This is off, because this is constant. So when you are differentiating constant, it becomes what? 0. So now we can say, and times, write it back. It becomes ax bracket ax plus b raised by what? 2 over what? Over 3. And another thing is that subtract 1 minus what? Minus this power, which is equal to what? 2 all over 3 minus 1. So this now becomes our dx. Let me say dx over what? Over dy equal to 2 becomes 2a over 3 bracket ax plus b bracket this raised power 2 over 3 minus 1 becomes what? 2 over 3 minus 1 becomes what? Becomes 2 over 3 minus 1 over 1. This is 3 goes in 3 how many times 1? 1 times 2 is what? We have 2 minus 3 goes in 3. 1 goes in 3 how many times? 3. 3 times 1 is what? 3. 2 minus 3 becomes what? Minus 1 over what? Over 3. So we can now say this becomes minus 1 over what? 3. So now, in this case, let's look a way to eliminate this minus. So we can eliminate this minus by using what? The law of what? The law of indices, which is x raised to power minus n is still the same thing as what? 1 over what? X raised to what? N. In this case, we can now say our x, our what? Our ds over dy is equal to 2a all over what? 3. Is equal to what? 2a over 3 times, there's a multiplication, times what? Times this will drop down since it is inverse over what? Over ax bracket as plus b bracket what? Raised by what? 1 over 3. So now we can now say this is equal to what? 2 times 1 becomes what? 2a over what? 3 times this becomes what? 3 bracket what? Ax plus what? B bracket 1 over 3. So now you can see that what? We arrive at what? At this particular point, at this particular stage. This, you can see this one is this one as what? As this. So using the shortcut method will help you a lot. So now, in my next video, I will be discussing in details on how to use the shortcut method to solve chain rule. I'll be discussing in details. I'll be giving you step by step in my next video on how to use to use these shortcuts to solve what? To solve chain rule. Thanks for watching.